What's up, guys, and welcome back to Learn to Play, episode number 5. Today we're going to be looking at Protoss, and specifically Protoss versus Terran. This is a match that I was in, but as you can see, I'm looking at my opponent. The real things we want to cover here are basically the things that we can do to get better if we are the Protoss here, and also I'd love to go into the beginning stages, talk about his build order, talk about where he's really going and how it all makes sense, or if it doesn't make sense, we're going to call it out as well. And at the same time, what Terran threatens, what Protoss threatens, and go into hopefully the mid-game stage and talk about the movement, because movement in PvT is very important. Also, army compositions are very important, as we've seen multiple times. So let's go ahead and start it off. We have a very standard opening coming out of the Protoss, and honestly the Terran, but there's going to be little tiny things that are going to give position and strategies away. First off, I want to talk about the difference in styles. There's definitely this difference of, I can just slow it down. There's a difference in styles of how we sim city in the beginning stage. I think pro players prefer putting a pylon here, a gateway here, and then a cyber core here, or even gateway pylon cyber core. And the reason is so that you can just shove your mothership on one area and be able to defend this side and not have to worry about Reapers coming in from behind. It protects a little bit better against two barracks, Reaper, that type of play. So it definitely makes sense to do that. I prefer it. What it's weak against is drops going into the mid-game stage, but I think Protosses, for the most part, have been able to defend drops. Photon overcharge is really helpful, and on top of that, you should just be prepared. I mean, if you're getting caught off by a drop as it is, it's going to be hard to deal with TVP, because a lot of times that mid-game stage, TVP is all about that dropping. So we're going to look and see what exactly we see in Terran's base. So right away, when we see a gas, we're thinking capabilities, right? What is my opponent capable of? There's a couple of fast expansion builds, but mainly it's the fast expansion with the Reaper build, right? Reaper, you add a reactor on top of this, and then you get a command center, which is what I love to do. But there's also builds like Fast Factory into Widowmine drop, into Hellbad drop, stuff like that. What you have to check first, is this gas first or not? So you just click on this and see how much gas has been mined. And when you see that the barracks is done and 100 gas isn't mined, you know for sure that it's not going to be a gas first, because gas first has that timing. So you look for, is it less than 2400 or more than 2400? That's the first thing. The second thing you do is just see if all the timings are regular. If orbital command center is coming around, this is like 2:45 normally it comes around, so we want to check for that. 2:45 is the ordinary time that Terrans will get their orbital command center. If it's any earlier, it's any later, you have to keep in mind for proxies or potential double barracks, because they could take that 150 minerals and put it into, well, instead of the orbital command, they put it into another barracks. So those are the big things you want to keep an eye from. So now we know it's just standard play, and we're going to be looking, is it going to be that Reaper, is it not? I like this little trick that our Protoss player does over here. And he just shoves a probe all the way over to the bottom right-hand corner and then shoves it all the way back, just to kind of secure and know exactly what the Terran is doing, because it could still be that factory play. And they have different responses for certain. And we get in, we see the command center. And from here, as soon as you see the command center, you see the Reaper, you know exactly it's very, very standard play. There's a couple of things now that we want to detect from this, all right? Well, is it going to be any sort of pressure in the beginning with ground, or is it not? It's very binary, right? There's no tech builds that Terran can really do unless it's going to be super, super late. But if it's super late, I mean, we're talking a reactor and a Reaper. That's 50 seconds worth of mining on a gas. That means it's almost a minute late for any tech builds. By that time, we should already have a robo up or whatever tech it is and be able to deal with that. So tech builds for Terran are really, really bad at this point. Yes, there are some that do it just to keep Protoss honest, but if you're going standard robo, it shouldn't be a problem. That's what we can deter off of this. That's what we can also, by inferring this, we can play a lot more economic central. So we're going to be chrono boosting out the Nexus a lot more, and particularly this second Nexus, and we'll go into that a little bit later. First Reaper comes in, gets a scout, sees. So we already know that the Terran knows we're only on 2 assimilators, which is absolutely fine. Everything seems very, very standard. And here's I guess not really a mistake, but the first thing I want to focus on is we should be chrono boosting out this nexus as much as possible, and now this nexus. So if we're on 2 nexi, you can constantly chrono boost one nexus out continuously. I like doing that the most. I think that's the absolute best. And the reason why is because we have constant nexus chrono boost on just this one. It takes about 10 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds to move across the map. It depends what map it is, but 10 to 15 seconds for a probe to go from over here to go to there. So that's like, that's a good amount of money that you're losing. Probably something like 8, 9 minerals, maybe 8 minerals around there that you lose just by starting the probes over here and having them chrono boosted out. So just have all your chrono boosts on there, and it'll give you the ability to always have a chrono boost in case of emergency, right? So we're still chrono boosting the good nexus and making sure that it's constantly churning out. And let's say we have some sort of huge push, which remember, it's binary. Terran can only do an attack on ground or defend. They cannot do any tech builds. So it's so easy to be able to say, are they attacking me or are they not? That's all you have to think. And in which case, you do want to chrono boost out. That being said, I'm going to say the same thing. Terran only has 2 options, either attack with ground or nothing at all. So going this robotics facility does not make sense to me. It's a little bit early. It's about 30 seconds earlier, so you can get an observer out. The normal timing is 6 minutes to 7 minutes. I prefer 6 minutes in general because it gives you the capabilities of doing a lot of 2-base all-ins. There's the 3 Colossus push at 12 minutes with 6 gateways, blink stalkers, and +1 attack. It's really, really powerful. It's the old Squirtle build back from StarCraft Wings of Liberty. You could definitely do something like that. And it has a lot of macro builds just built into it. Get immortals, etc. But getting this so early makes us a little bit vulnerable to just marine pushes where they kill a lot of our probes. That we get behind a lot of times in that fact. And we do not want to be making any gateway units or the least amount of gateway units as possible. The opportunity cost is not getting our 2 gateways around this time. We want to be getting our gateways so that we defend against, again, the binary pushes that exist for Terran. It's either they do or they don't. So it makes sense for us to throw down just 2 gateways, and then what we're able to do is not make any units, and if they do attack, we put out a round of units, and then we chrono boost out all our gateways yet again, and then we put out another group of units. And by the time units walk all the way over from the natural to this natural, you will have 2 unit productions worth of units, and your opponent has the same units that they've been walking out. So they're literally 2 production cycles behind. That's why the defensive gateways are so powerful, and that's why a lot of times you see feigned aggression from Terran that really doesn't exist, but they're just keeping Protoss honest. So by applying the 2 gateways, you actually get to say, okay, let me see if they're attacking. If they're not, I make no units and concentrate all on my tech, which is exactly what you want to do. You want to get your Colossus out as fast as possible. And if not, if they're going to be attacking me, I can easily defend them. So that's why I like 2 gateways down to keep us super safe. Instead of this, which we really only net, I mean, it's a 30-second difference. I believe observers are something like 30 seconds. Of course, if you add a chrono boost, it's going to be 20 seconds. Let's just check and make sure. So 30 seconds. So this observer coming out is what we're gaining. Also, because we've gotten it at 5:30, we can potentially get a robotics bay at 6:30, right? That's when the robotics facility finishes approximately. By 6:30, you actually need that extra 30 seconds to a minute to be able to saturate this completely. Look, we're still at 13 out of 24. We haven't taken our 2 gases yet. So you don't have the capabilities of really yielding from Colossus tech until, you know, a little bit later on once you get your 3rd and 4th gas. So that's why I think in general there's no real push to get this observer out super fast, especially because we know we're not doing tech. If you know Terran is capable of tech, then absolutely 5:30, very reasonable time. But because we've already seen the Terran's build order, we don't have to do something like that. The robotics bay is coming at a reasonable time. I don't mind this at all. 2 gateways underway. I mean, don't get me wrong, the observer that we're getting out 30 seconds faster definitely helps out. It helps out incredibly. We're going to be able to get over to see the Terran base. But really, the timing that we want to see is the starport timing, right? And you could see the starport timing at 8 minutes, at 8:30, at 9 minutes. As long as it's in that area, 8 to 9 minutes, we're good to go. So if it's 30-second delayed, it's not that big of a deal. We'll talk about why it's going to be at that timing as it comes to fruition. Everything looks good right now. I mean, Protoss is just making a ton of probes, which he should have been doing. All chrono boosts being allocated over there. And now, Terran sees that we're going Colossus tech. It should be no surprise, honestly, and this is all very, very standard stuff. Okay, we get in with our Phoenix. We see, what do we see? We see the starport coming out really freaking early. Really, really early. This is going to be 9-minute medevacs, okay? The standard is 9 minutes, 30 seconds for a regular 3 barracks, and then you get your factory and all that. If we see it at 9 minutes or 8:30, it definitely could be either of the two. We're saying to ourselves, well, Terran has taken a huge risk, and they haven't protected nearly as much against 2 base all-in, so there's a potential attack there, right? Because you could see, I've only gotten 2 barracks in this situation. Or the other way you could do it is you go 3 barracks and you don't get this engineering bay. That's how you get it out 30 seconds faster than this. In both cases, when you don't go the E-bay, there's definitely some Immortal Sentry timing attacks that you could do, or even gateway timing attacks at around 8 minutes to 9 minutes. So when you see this, in future games, if you're ever playing the same person, you think 2-base aggression can be very strong in this spot. But also, just playing standard is fine too. We're also seeing what Protoss is about to do here, which does make sense. You know, we're getting Observer, and then we use this time that we've had the robotics facility out for a little bit longer to get our Warp Prism. Takes a pretty long time. You can see 50 seconds. If we chrono boost it out, it's going to take like 37 seconds, something around there, or 35 seconds, something like that. But what else can we deduce from Terran's position? Well, we should also count the number of gases. The number of gases allows us to know how aggressive we can be. If we see only 2 gases, this means they're playing very Marine heavy. You cannot go Marauders. You cannot upgrade. You cannot upgrade here. You cannot upgrade with the combat shield and get your medevacs out at the same time and have Marauders. It's just impossible. They need 3 gases. So when I'm looking over this base as a Protoss, I'm saying, oh, 2 gases? Well, you're probably going to be playing super defensive. You're going to be only harassing with Marines, which guess what? Colossus are really good against Marines. So we don't have to go nearly as many units, and we should be expecting either a 3rd command center really fast, or to be tacking on 3 to 5 additional barracks. Those are the 2 polarizing spots that Terran is in. They can't really go anything else because, I mean, if they go Ghost, they're going to be Marine heavy with some Ghosts, and you know their tech is kind of all over the place. They haven't really gotten their gas all too fast, so it's not like they're hitting a huge timing. So it really doesn't make sense. Even double starport, you need your 3rd and 4th gases ASAP. So those are the main key things that we're looking at as Protoss in this beginning stage when we're going to scout. Starport timing, how many barracks, how many gases. If it's 4 gases, you can definitely expect a delayed 3rd base. Because if they're going 4 gases, well, what do you need all that gas for? It's going to be Marauder heavy. It might be even some upgrade heavy, a lot of medevacs, and then going directly into Vikings. All of these are capable. Of course, it could just go a 3rd base. The standard is to have 3 gases as Terran. That gives you the ability to produce Marauders and Marines, get all your upgrades, and also it's gunning for the minimum amount of gas so that you can get your 3rd command center out. So that's our standard. So again, barracks count, starport timing, is it 9 minutes, 8:30, 9 minutes, 9:30, or even 10 minutes? It'll be 10 minutes if you see something like a 3rd command center, like in base or something like that. And of course, the gases. So let's go ahead and move on. All the timings look okay. I like this little clever trick that he's doing with the Warp Prisms here. The Warp Prism is going to buy a lot of time, obviously. and give the capacity to put pressure on at this specific time. 9 minutes and 20 seconds, 9 minutes and 30 seconds. This is when Terran ordinarily pushing out with their double medevacs, their first 2 medevacs, and this punishes a lot of that. Okay, so real quick, let's talk about positioning of our units. Do we like this or do we not? First off, I think we do need a second observer. A second observer should be put right here or right here. Either of these 2 places. I'm fine with either because we want to be able to defend. I mean, we don't have a huge army, right? But this Colossus is able to just devastate everything. We want to be able to defend our natural, our main base, and our third. So clearly we want to be in this position, this center position. There is a chance that we throw stalkers down right here, and we can position our army a little bit over to the side. But that's still very hard, and because we're doing this harass, we don't really have the capabilities. If we weren't doing this harass, I would throw up like 5 to 7 stalkers over here, and then keep my army over here to defend. But because we're in the current situation, and we have to defend all 3 places, we want to put our observer here. Why? This Terran path is ordinarily really weird, right? Like, you wouldn't go here because it gives Protoss about 20 to 30 seconds more time to get units. That means a complete production cycle of our gateways. Just gives Protoss the ability to defend a lot more. That's why you could put the observer over here, but it gives you less time to move over. So we want to protect the natural. If we see units going across, we just move back and slide. And if, of course, if there's an attack going in here, we can just move up the ramp and photon overcharge and defend while that's happening. So I would definitely prefer Protoss to be sitting back here and having some sort of spotter. It could be a probe, it could be an observer. You need something over here, and that's why I think we should be chrono boosting out 2 observers, and then chrono boosting out the warp prism to begin with. So that's most of mid game, and it gets very, very tricky. And this game gets kind of crazy. I mean, you know, there's a lot of attacks going on, stuff like that. But this is the majority. Like, this is how we want to analyze our early game stage, right? The pre-11 minutes, pre-12 minutes. This is why I'm saying it's crazy, because the Colossus goes down to just Marines. But in general, I mean, those are the things that we're looking at for the Terran build. This is how we're trying to analyze it, and then we can move on from here. After this trade, for example, like a lot of Marines traded here, a lot of supply traded here. We should, after every huge trade, and we know there's no imminent threat, we should just be allocating Chrono Boost to all of our Nexus and churning this out. Like, see, there should not be 100 energy here. So we should just be chrono boosting out probes as best as possible, and just keeping our pressure up as best as possible. So guys, I hope that helped out with this PvT. I know it was a change up since we've had a lot of ZVTs. But that being said, I hope you guys tune in for the next Learn to Play, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.